welcome back. So now I'm going to get into the video about um, my haplogroup, about what is going on with why my sister and I have actually two different haplogroups. We are full-blooded siblings, okay? We have the same mom and the same dad. My mom gave birth to both of us at home, okay? So we were not born in a hospital. Neither of us were switched at birth. Neither of us were adopted. My dad was a witness to my mom giving birth to both of us at home with a midwife. So there's no confusion on whether or not we are actually siblings. And according to DNA tests, we show up as full-blooded siblings that share around like 47% DNA, okay? And so I'm just going to explain a little bit about haplogroups and how they're supposed to work, okay? And I'm going to talk about it from the maternal perspective because that's what we're going to be talking about today. So maternally, and this should work for paternally, but it's a little different for paternal. So, but maternally, women inherit DNA from the mom, passed on generation to generation to generation, the same maternal DNA. And so if a mom has 5 daughters, all 5 daughters should have the exact same mtDNA haplogroup. There should be no divergent haplogroups among siblings in one generation because that is not what's normal in today's science. All right, so if we go back generation to generations to generations to generations, supposedly we are supposed to have divergence. It takes, like they say, 30,000 years, 40,000 years, it takes several thousand years in order to get from one haplogroup and it to diverge and change into another. That is what today's science claims. Okay. Now, as somebody who believes in the Bible, I know that that can't be true. It can't take several thousand years because the Bible claims that Earth is around 6,000 years old, maybe sometime between 6,000 and 7,000 years old. All right, and from the time of Noah, it's only been about, I want to say, 4,500 years. So if we have a condensed version of time, if we have a condensed timeline, then it's safe to assume that people had multiple mtDNAs and multiple y-DNA for the men as well, okay, passed on to generations, and that siblings can have different mtDNA or y-DNA. Granted, this occurrence is not common, but it should be capable of happening. Now, in the case of my sister and I, it has happened. And so this is the site where I confirmed my haplogroup, and my sister confirmed hers on a different website. And I'll actually kind of just like poke her results here in this screen here so that you can see what hers is. And then we're going to compare it to mine. All right, so I went ahead and already went over the ethnicity estimates for myself here, and you can just check out the previous video for all of that. But let's go ahead and go down to my haplogroup. All right, I'm not going to have my y-DNA haplogroup because I am not male. Only males can get the y-DNA, and that is passed on from father to son to son. However, sons do get their maternal DNA from their moms passed on to them as well. So if you're male, you will have your paternal y-DNA and your maternal mtDNA results. But for me, as a female, I will only have my maternal results. So my maternal results for my mtDNA is N1'5. Okay, this is already a rare haplogroup to get. I've been trying to do research on this haplogroup. I've been trying to see where this haplogroup is prominent, and it's just rare across the board globally. So let's go ahead and just go into what this haplogroup is, where it's found, who has it, and why there's so many questions surrounding this haplogroup. And I believe that my DNA, me and my sisters, holds the key to a lot of the questions about this haplogroup. So N1'5, all right, well, sorry, let me just go ahead and read this. There is widespread agreement in the scientific community concerning the African ancestry of haplogroup L3. Haplogroup N's parent-clade. However, whether or not the mutations which define haplogroup N itself first occurred within Asia or Africa has been a subject for ongoing discussion and study that is still unknown. Now, for me personally, we all know that modern humans, like they say, they call us modern humans, but there's only one human society, right? So I'm saying the secular terms for science so that you guys can understand what it is that I'm talking about. As modern humans, that we are said to all have originated from Africa. All right. And with that being said, there still is more research done on out of Africa mtDNA and science as opposed to where it all originated from. So for me, it's just really strange that there's still so many questions that surround Africa when that should be the study of Africa and African DNA should be the front most studied DNA to understand exactly how and who we are and how we came about as people. So anyways, N1'5 descends from L3, and the origins are said to either be East Africa, excuse me, or West Africa. And the common places where it's found today are South Asia and East Asia. Okay, that's what it's saying. So I'm gonna go ahead and make this a little bigger just so we can see what it's saying here. But this is basically the migration patterns of the maternal haplogroups. Okay, they call it the Eve gene. I mean, they just put everything in plain sight. But anyways, they call it the Eve gene, the first modern human, modern woman. Okay, and then it goes L1, L2, and L3. This is all again in East Africa, and L3 looks to have. They're saying it looks to be originating from Egypt, all right? And then from L3, they say that N migrated this way and L3 to M migrated out this way, right? So if we look here, and L3 to N, this is Israel, okay? This is the Levant, this is right here, this is Israel. That's where that is, all right? So now we're just gonna go and dive into what I have found about L3 and the N haplogroup and kind of my own thoughts on it. All right, so let me go ahead and go to, okay, yeah, let me go to this one first. Okay, so the African origin hypothesis. And the reason I'm going to read this is because I believe this one is more accurate. So let me just go ahead and read it. So according to Tomas, the lack of L3 lineages other than M and N in India and among non-African mitochondria in general suggests that the earliest migration of modern humans already carried these two mtDNA ancestors via a departure route over the Horn of Africa. In 2019, a study by They et al. Presented evidence of a basal branch of haplogroup N from the Neolithic Sahara. They suggest that N either diverged from haplogroup L3 in the Near East, possibly in the Arabian Peninsula, following the exit of L3 from Africa, then migrated back to North Africa, or that it instead may have originated in North Africa, having diverged from L3 there, and also still migrating out and coming back in. All right, so that's the first thing I wanted to read. And then the second thing I wanted to go over is this one. Okay. So the possibility of an origin of L3 in Asia was proposed by Cabrera et al. In 2018. All right, so now this gentleman is saying that L3 possibly could have originated in West Asia. Okay, let's be clear about this. He's talking about the origination of L3 possibly could have been in West Asia, Israel area. Okay, based on similar coalescent dates of L3 and its Eurasian distributed M and N derivative clades. So they're saying that these three groups kind of originated around the same time and possibly in the same area. And they're saying that this could be in West Asia, is where it's saying basically. Okay, so that's one thing. The distant location in Southeast Asia of the oldest known subclades M and N and the comparable age of the paternal haplogroup DE. According to this hypothesis, after an initial out of Africa migration of bearers of pre-L3 around 125 KYA, there would have been a back migration of females carrying L3 from Eurasia to East Africa sometime after 70 KYE. The hypothesis suggests that this back migration is aligned with bearers of paternal haplogroup E, and some also claim that the same migration pattern that L3 had is the same migration pattern that DE and D had as well. Okay, DE to E had as well. So they migrated from East Africa and took a journey to West Asia, back into Africa. All right, which it also proposes to have originated in Eurasia. Again, the paternal haplogroup E is also said to potentially have originated out of Eurasia as well. Okay, please keep all these things in mind. These new Eurasian lineages are then suggested to have largely replaced the old, let's see how to say this word, autochthonous male and female Northeast African lineages. Excuse my pronunciation of that word. According to other research, through earlier migrations out of Africa of anatomically modern humans occurred, current Eurasian populations descend instead from a later migration from Africa dated between about 65,000 and 50,000 years ago, associated with the migration out of L3. So if we break this down, what they're saying is out of East Africa, DE and L3 migrated to West Africa, okay? And N and M and E were created around that time of that out of Africa migration in West Asia, and then they came back into Africa, and some went back to East Africa, some went west. And or these haplogroups originated, all of them, in East Africa, and then they went out into West Asia, then came back into Africa, and then later on there was a migration out of Africa that happened after that. Now I just have some information on like my haplogroups, my migration patterns, and then I'll explain exactly, or kind of into more detail on what my results are. So from James Lick, I was able to upload my results and my sister's results so that we could get kind of like an estimate overview of what our haplogroups would be. Now, just keep in mind, I did James Lick before I got my haplogroup confirmed and before I confirmed my sister's. So these results were the first results that we both got. So my results came, and they came in this order. So when you do James, it tells you like your first match, second match, third match, fourth match, however many matches you have. Like I actually did this for my grandmother, and she had like 50 matches. It was a large number of potential matches. And so with these matches, what I think it does is actually kind of shows you your migration route. Okay, so it's actually pretty good. It's a pretty good test just to at least see maybe what it could be, even if it's not exact. I think it's pretty accurate. Well, at least it was for me and for my family. So its first place for me was N1'5, then N1, then L3H1. For my sister, it was the exact opposite. Her first match was L3H1, L3H1A, L3H1A2, L3H1A2B, and N1'5. Now, when I saw this, I just initially assumed we had the same haplogroup. So I was like, okay, so either our haplogroup is N1'5 or L3H1. And since it's the opposite of each other, I figured, okay, if one of us takes a test, we can figure out what the other one would be as well, because obviously I assumed that we would be the same haplogroup. So I got my sister's test confirmed through WeGene, and I thought, okay, well, if it's an Asian, right, Asian haplogroup, if it was N1'5, then of course that would be a good one to maybe do it through, because maybe it was the Asian one. And so I was like, all right, well, let me try that one for her. And so when I uploaded her information, hers came out to be L3, and I was like, oh, okay, well, hers is L3, then mine must be L3. So I actually wasn't even going to take my test because I just assumed we'd have the same one. There's no point. It was L3, and um, and then to be more specific, L3H1, right? I just assumed, all right, so we're both L3H1. And then I came across this site and I was like, oh, you know what? This would be a good idea. I can do another site that will maybe be more specific on the haplogroup. So I was just assuming I was going to get L3H1 for this for this test. I was like, okay, I can do that. And then I also wanted to take the test. So I was like, let me go ahead and update my information. And when I did, my, was I surprised? My haplogroup came back N1'5. And so I was very thrown off. I cannot lie, I was very thrown off. And I was like, what does this mean? How is this possible? Huh? It's basically just left me with more questions than answers. Every time I've gone deeper and deeper into my genes, my studies, trying to figure out, get myself answers that most people don't have. I don't get the answers I need. So I went ahead and so before I got my N1'5, I went ahead and I was studying L3H1 because I assumed after my sister got L3 for those results, I was like, oh, okay, so we must come from L3H1. And so that's here what I did. I kind of tried to find out where is L3H1 from. And it is exclusive to East Africa, okay? L3H and L3, the whole line of L3H is exclusive to East Africa. It's found, in my particular one I was looking for, L3H1, it's found in Ethiopians in East Africa. And then if you go down the line of where she's from, it's, again, Ethiopians, again, Ethiopians, and again, Ethiopians, right? So I'm just going to assume our L3 starting point is Ethiopia. And again, that makes sense. I also believe that L3, I also believe that the current Indians originate from Ethiopians. Okay, and I'll tell you why I believe that in a second, at least the ones who carry haplogroup N. So again, my DNA kind of speaks that is true. All right, so anyway, if we go down, then N1'5, they're not sure where it originates from. It could be West Asia or it could be East Africa, all right? And so either way, it's okay. The migration pattern for these haplogroups are Ethiopia, up through Egypt, up through towards Israel, out into East Asia, through India. Now, let's get into my oral history for my mom's family. So my second great grandmother on my mom's side, she was born in Calcutta, India. So all of this, for me, is just it's just everything makes sense. I'm like, okay, well, this all makes sense. And I don't really know my history from before that, but the haplogroup actually tells me a lot of my history before that. So it's really cool that I'm able to put all and piece all this stuff together. So again, my second great grandmother on my mom's side was born in Calcutta, India, and when she met my second great grandfather, he was in the military, so from there they island hopped, right? I guess he was deployed all over Caribbean islands, so they went from there. They went to Barbados. No, excuse me. From there they went to Antigua, yeah, and Barbados, and then Jamaica, and a few other islands, I believe. But then that's just the pattern that I know. Then they ended up in Jamaica, and then my great my grandmother moved to the United States, right? And I'm not sure if she was born there or if she just moved there and then naturalized. I think she moved there and naturalized. And then, my mom was born in the States, and then obviously I was born in the States. Um, but that's my mom's line. So Ethiopia, West Asia, India, Caribbean, United States. And that's how we get my mtDNA. And then N1 is exclusive to Africa. So here, I want to read just this little part. Rare unclassified haplogroup N has been found among fossils belonging to the cardinal and epicardinal culture, Cardium pottery, and the pre-pottery Neolithic B. A rare unclassified form of N has also been reported in modern Algeria. So this whole thing has to do with the Israel area. And I believe I have a site that I'll show you maybe in another video. But let's just look here to see if I can make this bigger. So this is the mtDNA distribution of haplogroups in Ethiopia. And as you can see, the majority is L3, and then there's a portion of N as well in Ethiopia. So, it's just fascinating. DNA really tells you a story, and I'm going to get to the bottom of my story. And I would love to connect with actual people that study DNA and people who study African DNA and West Asian DNA and make that their focus and their study, because that's what I've been studying. And I would love to truly study it in a way that doesn't hinder or hide what is true. Okay? And so that's where I'm going to end this video. In my next video, I'm going to dig in deeper, and we're going to actually talk about why I think the modern haplotrees are incorrect, what they should look like, and because my sister and I have two different mtDNAs, I believe that there are some similarities between other groups in the paternal side as well that should be combined and make sense to be together versus how it's displayed right now. So we'll just get into that next time.